Welcome to another Thursday night Bible study, brought to you as a ministry of SIGBC.
We are continuing as part 2 of our study in Psalm 116, verse 1 through 7, finding rest in the goodness of the Lord. And we talked last week about the fact that we can and should find rest for our bodies whenever we are able to. When we are tired, we need to find a place to rest. And we talked about how Japanese tend to find a place the ability to sleep on the train in spite of the possibility of their missing their stop, because they are able to find rest in times of tiredness. And in the same way, we need to find rest in the goodness of the Lord, confidence that God is with us and will care for us no matter what it is that we face in life. And so the first 3 things we observed last week were, because the Lord hears our cries for mercy, he is worthy of our heartfelt love for him. In other words, when someone does something good for you, and when you know someone cares about you and is willing to do something to help you in your times of need and distress, that should naturally result in an emotional reaction, a response that is from the heart. And so the psalmist observes that he says, I love the Lord, for he heard my voice. He heard my cry for mercy. So, because the Lord hears our cries for mercy, he is worthy of our heartfelt love for him. The second observation was that because the Lord chooses to hear us when we call to him, we should always call upon him. If someone who can help us is listening, and we are in a situation where we can't help ourselves, it would make sense to call upon the individual who can hear us and answer us and provide for us. And so the psalmist observes, because he turned his ear to me, I will call on him as long as I live. So because the Lord chooses to hear us when we call to him, we should always call upon him. And the third observation we made last week was that because we know the Lord saves us in times of anguish and distress, we know that we can always come to him in our times of greatest need. The psalmist in Psalm 23 said, Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will feel no evil. For you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life. Your love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. We can rest in the goodness of the Lord, but only if we choose to find rest in the goodness of the Lord. Which brings us to the fourth observation, which is the first one for today, and that is, because the Lord is gracious and righteous and full of compassion, he protects and saves even those who have wandered from his love for them. You see, God is always willing to listen to those who, even if they have wandered from him, even if they have fallen off the straight path, when they come and call upon him with a penitent and humble heart, he's always there to listen. And because the Lord is gracious, and because he is righteous, and because he is full of compassion, he will hear when we call to him. And he protects and saves even those who have wandered from his love for them. And so the psalmist observes in Psalm 116, verses 5 and 6, the Lord is gracious and righteous. Our God is full of compassion. The Lord protects the unwary. When I was brought low, he saved me. We talked last week about an individual who might be drowning. And when an individual is drowning, they will call out for anybody who is able to help. One of the dangers of lifeguards is that when someone is drowning, they are so desperate for help that as soon as someone swims out to save them, they will think, "Oh, the person is here to save me," and they will, I'm going to drown. I need to hold on to this person." And so they will grab onto the individual who has come out to save them, and that will keep the individual, the lifeguard, the individual who came out to save them, from being able to swim. And then they both start sinking because the one was so desperate to cling to anything that might save that he caused the other to be unable to swim. I had this happen one time, as a matter of fact. I was at Lake Nojiri years and years ago, and there was a little boy who was struggling in the water, and there was nobody else around, and he was past the pier and in the deep end, and he looked like he was having a hard time. And so sure enough, he started calling out for help, and nobody was there to hear. So I dove into the water, and I came up to him, and as soon as I got near him, he grabbed a hold of both of my arms. And I couldn't swim either, and he was holding on to me, and I couldn't swim, and we both started going down. So basically, I pulled my arms away, and then pushed him out of the way, and then came around and grabbed him from behind and helped him to swim to safety, and he was able to make it through his scary ordeal. One of the things that they teach you in life-saving or lifeguarding is sometimes when you approach someone, you might need to knock them out before you can save them because they're so frantic to save themselves that they don't rest in the individual who is actually there and able to save them. And the psalmist says, look, the Lord is gracious and righteous. Our God is full of compassion. The Lord protects the unwary. When I was brought low, he saved me, which means the goal is that we find rest in the goodness of the Lord and then learn to trust that he is there to hear us, to answer us, and to save us. And the final observation he makes is, because the Lord has been good to us, we know that we can always choose to find rest in him. One of the reasons some people can't sleep is because they get to thinking about all the problems that they face in life at night. And when they start thinking of all the issues and all the struggles and all the difficulties and all the problems that they're facing, or maybe even the things that they need to do the next day that they know they're not going to be able to complete, or the financial problems that they might be facing that they don't know how they're going to pay the bills, whenever they start thinking about these things and worrying about these things, then it takes away their ability to rest. And God isn't saying, toss it all to the wind and just hope for the best. No, but he is saying, if you are doing your best to fulfill the responsibilities that I have given you in life, and you still find yourself drowning, call to me, and I will answer you, and I will save you. Because the Lord has been good to us, we know that we can always choose to find rest in him. That's why there's no reason to worry. There's no reason to fret. Because if we look back at the number of times that we were struggling and God intervened on our behalf in answer to prayer, and God specifically answered prayers because of his love for us, it makes our love for him all the greater, and it gives us the confidence that we can always trust him in every situation. That's why he says in verse 7, return to your rest, my soul, for the Lord has been good to you. Remember that you've got a God who cares for you, who loves you, who has always been good to you. And so, rather than choosing to fret and worry, choose to rest in the goodness of the Lord. Return to your rest. Remember, there was a time when you could trust in the Lord, and he always provided, and then you took things into your own hands, but now come back to him. And remember that there's a God who loves you, a God of compassion, a God of comfort, who wants what is best for for you. In Psalm chapter 62, verses 1 and then 5 and then 8, the psalmist observes, "Truly, my soul finds rest in God. My salvation comes from him." Yes, verse 5. My soul, find rest in God. My hope comes from him. Verse 8. Trust in him at all times, you people. Pour out your hearts to him, for God is our refuge. God is the place that we can go to in our times of greatest need and deepest struggle. In America recently, there was a hurricane that came through and devastated so much of Florida. They were expecting it, and they were expecting it to be bad, and they were expecting it to do a lot of damage. And so they encouraged people to evacuate, to go to places that are safe. And those who either remained because they didn't have anywhere to go and faced the destruction of the hurricane. Some got killed, some drowned, some had their houses completely blown away. They suffered loss and destruction. But others had built houses to withstand hurricanes to begin with. As a matter of fact, I was reading about a community where they had specifically built in an area that was away from the ocean a bit, and they had built structures that were built specifically to withstand, I think it was 150 mile per hour winds. And this particular area, when the hurricane came through and devastated so much of the entire area, this particular area was undamaged. Not even many, as I was reading, they were saying that not even many shingles got blown off the roofs. And it was basically completely unscathed, basically completely untouched by the hurricane. Why? Because they built structures in which they could take refuge. And the buildings protected them from the ravages of the wind and the rain and the storm that was without. And Jesus says, likewise, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls, because my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Jesus says, in your difficulties, in your distress, in your struggles, in your anguish, come to me. Everybody who is weary and burdened, and find rest for your souls. Because I care for you, I love you, and I want what is best for you. Yes, it requires giving up self and choosing to follow God no matter what the cost. But at the end, you will find rest in the goodness of the Lord. Final analysis, we should always give thanks to the Lord and find rest in him, because he is good and because his love endures forever. We have the confidence that we have a God who loves us now and always, and who wants to hear from us, wants us to take refuge in him. Call upon him in times of distress, because he will answer. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. So give thanks to the Lord, because he is good, and his love endures forever.
Thank you for listening. You can also join us in person or live on Facebook every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Japan time. This has been a ministry of Sakahogi International Grace Baptist Church.